It's Adrienne Lawrence, and welcome to TYT's The Conversation. So, right now, I have a great guest for you, senior reporter for Business Insider, Camila DeChalus. Thanks for joining us, Camila.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, this past Saturday, Arkansas Governor, Asa Hutchinson, the Republican chairman of the National Governors Association, he said that Donald Trump should not lead Republicans or this country again. What should we take from the statement?
Well, it was a really big statement when he made it because at this conference, we asked several Republican governors what their thoughts were on Trump kind of hinting that he would run again in 2024. And a lot of them were apprehensive to make a statement, vocally supporting the president or just opposing the idea of him running. So for Asa to come out and automatically state that he wants to see other candidates run was really big for the Republican Party because a lot of people are really wary to chime in and really give their thoughts on whether he should run or not. Recent polls have showed that his supporters and just the American public, Republicans, still consider him to be a front runner and want him to be the Republican presidential candidate who runs again in 2024. So it was really big that the Arkansas governor just came out and just vocally, announced his, disapproval of him to try to run again.
Yeah, particularly in Arkansas, the place that just seems like it lives and breathes Republican country, to step up and say something. So I think that really definitely does say something, as you've noted. And the thing is, it seems interesting because it almost seems like Donald Trump is saying something, but not, because he hasn't announced the fact that he is going to be running for president, yet he loves to openly just say that he's going to be the 47th president of the United States. So essentially, why do you think he's doing this?
Well, there could be a lot of reasons why he's putting off making an official announcement time and time and again. He has repeatedly, made hints and suggested that he's going to run again in 2024. But a lot of election experts I talked to recently about why he is potentially holding off on making an official announcement said that there's a lot of financial gain to be had if he puts off this announcement. For example, right now, since he's not an official candidate, he can raise money and participate in a lot of these super PACs in order to, there's no cap or limit or financial limit how much money he can raise. However, he's under more strict limitations when he does officially decide to announce that he's running for candidate, such as how much money he can spend and raise. He's under more limitations. So that's one of the reasons. Another one, when I was talking to a lot of election experts, is just to kind of build momentum. I think right now, a lot of the Republican Party is gauging how much support is still behind Trump and, to still rally up his base. So this could be two reasons why he's just postponing to making an official announcement. And even though he's time and time again, he's making these comments, a lot of election experts said one thing is clear, there's no law against him joking, but until he raises or spends more than $5,000, that's when he has to officially register with the FEC as an official candidate.
Well, this whole idea of him joking, it's just, I am not laughing. And I think there's so many other people out there who are not laughing as well. But it definitely sounds like he's leveraging a grift here to some extent to continue to fill his coffers and get people to donate money. And as I understand it, the Republican Party is the one paying for his legal fees as it is. So if he can continue to get people to open their wallets and support him, that he's a really big ticket for Republican fundraisers. I'm guessing that factors in?
Well, it does, because a lot of the Republican Party still sees him as a really big fundraiser for their party. He has generated thousands of dollars for the Republican Party and for candidates. And I think that's why a lot of them have not distanced themselves away from him or are still wary about vocally supporting another run for office or just weighing in on whether he should run, because a lot of them still see him as a really big fundraiser and as a public figure that's able to generate and galvanize the Republican base. So until he really makes an official announcement, you won't see a lot of Republicans come out of the woodworks to either denounce him running or support him running. I think they're really waiting out and seeing what he decides to do.
Yeah, and it should be kind of interesting in part, just because, there's something about the man, the fact that his grift is so good that he can get people to pay his legal bills. He gets people to pay him money. The fact that the United States government is giving him an annual salary for being a former president. And essentially he pays for nothing, but he puts everyone in a position where their livelihoods and their lives could be lost. It's quite the compromiser. But in terms of essentially doing this whole fake out in terms of not announcing his presidency or his run for candidacy for president, or just now saying that I'm going to be the 47th president of the United States. I guess, how do you think that is impacting the Democratic Party in terms of deciding what their strategy will be in terms of who they put up as a contender for 2024?
I think what's really important to note is that there's a lot of contenders that Republicans are weighing on who should run for their party. That's one thing that we talked to a lot of conservative governors is that they're kind of waiting to see out, saying, there's a lot of great conservatives out there. They want to see who also puts their hat in the ring to decide to run for president again. I think the Democrats are going to be on the offense because they have to prepare whether he runs or not to make a case of why, to galvanize their base and to motivate voters to come out and support and vote for Democratic candidates that are going to run. So I think for them, it's the thing that they're going to focus on the most is how to strategically, galvanize their base and also come out with messaging that really resonates with voters and mobilizes them to come out, whether Trump decides to run in 2024 or another person decides in the Republican Party decides to run. Again, a lot of Republicans have been putting up the name of Ron DeSantis, who is the governor for Florida. He's also a Republican, and saying that could be the second, best choice there. But we really don't know that. I think Democrats are really going to strategically try to plan behind the scenes of what kind of messages will really resonate with voters and what can really galvanize their base.
Yes, and it should be something that will all have us all on pins and needles. And so in terms of kind of what we're looking at moving forward with Donald Trump, knowing that he is facing a number of investigations and potential charges, at what point, I guess, do you think the Republican Party will try to throw in the towel as it concerns him? Because it really seems that the Atlanta DA as well as the New York Attorney General are moving forward full steam ahead.
Well, it's funny because I talked to a lot of legal experts about that particular issue of when the Republican Party will distance themselves against Trump or even other Republican lawmakers who are also facing their own legal challenges. And the thing is, until more momentum is brought against these cases, let's not forget that in Atlanta, still no formal charges have been brought against the former president. And so until that really happens, and again, he's been denouncing this investigation from the very start, calling it a witch hunt, until more charges are being brought and more evidence comes to light about what has really transpired between that call that they are investigating that happened on January 2nd, 2021, until more evidence comes out and until formal charges are really brought, I think that's when you really see Republicans try to weigh in on this. But for now, a lot of them are just saying they're keeping a low profile, just waiting for the tide to really settle and for him to really decide whether to run or not. But this is another reason why some legal experts are anticipating that Trump is going to keep holding off until he makes an official announcement because he is under investigation, not just in Atlanta, but also in New York. And there is multiple pending lawsuits against him as we speak. So that is most likely going to factor in his decision of when he announces the decision and if he decides to run at all in 2024.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's going to continue to collect all the money he can. And speaking of money in terms of continuing to get people to contribute to your campaign and your coffers and whatnot while you are under investigation, it's interesting essentially the difference in we're seeing Donald Trump continuing to make money and to be pretty much the leading fundraiser for the Republican Party. And then we see individuals like Matt Gaetz, who, as we just recently learned, he ended up in the red in terms of his friend of Matt Gaetz committee campaign. And it just really shows you, it seems that people are not necessarily backing each Republican member when they are in trouble, or is it a matter of what they're in trouble for?
It could be a combination of both. You don't really know. I also talked to some experts about that, how this can impact a lawmaker's or Republican officials' ability to fundraise when they are under legal investigation. And here's the thing, it really comes down to messaging at the end of the day. And this is what experts have told me time and time again. A lot of the Republican lawmakers and even Trump on this matter has come to really the defense claiming that, there's no basis to the investigation, that these investigations are a witch hunt and that they're false and there's no truth behind them. And so I think the messaging that they've have kind of cultivated around their perception of this investigation either shows that it's resonating with their base or it's not. And I think in the case of Matt Gaetz, that shows that he hasn't been able to raise as much money as he has in the past. Maybe shows that maybe his constituents are not as on board as he thought he was. But even to this day, as this investigation is still looming over his head, DOJ has not made any official charges against him. However, it is a question of whether, as this investigation under him and his associates, as it continues to unfold, whether that's actually going to hurt his chances of getting reelected in the future.
Yeah, and it definitely almost seems to be the case, especially with all the vultures circling in terms of Joel Greenberg and everyone else who seems to be testifying before grand juries. But we're gonna have to wait and see how that plays out. And someone else who also happens to be a staunch Trump supporter, Madison Cawthorn, finding himself in that thicket of wondering, will he actually be on the ballot when it comes to these midterms, in part because there is a challenge to his eligibility to actually run for office because of his involvement with January 6th. Do you see a lot of supporters essentially backing his play, or do you think that it's kind of unlikely that he will do well?
I think it's still unclear at this point in time, just because so much is still up in the air. But I think as you see it's going closer to the midterm elections, and as the candidate himself is going to try to rally his base, that's when you'll really see if the messaging and his tactics are really working in order to really mobilize his support group to go out to the polls. Because that's ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what matters, is that your message is resonating and that voters really do feel like you are the best representative to represent their communities.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Camila. I really appreciate our conversation today. And can you please tell the viewers where they can find more information about you and follow you on social media?
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at @DeChalus. And also, if you go to Business Insider, you can look at my profile in that under there. You can see all the stories that I've written in the past few weeks.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us. Camila DeChalus, senior reporter, Business Insider.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.